Welcome everyone to another episode of Optimal Health for Busy Entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Julian Hayes II, back at it again with another fascinating and interesting entrepreneur. And when we think about health optimization, when we think about becoming the healthiest versions of ourselves, we tend to think about nutrition, exercise, and sleep. But what many rarely think about is their mindset, specifically the way in which they're living their life. Many of us can be healthy and fit on the outside, but on the inside, we can sometimes feel suppressed and trapped, and have a constant yearning to do more, or simply there's a need for us to become naughtier. And my guest today is an expert in all things naughtiness. I'm here with Miss Sienna Sinclaire. She is a three-time award-winning author of 5 books, a burlesque performer, a world traveler of 75 countries and counting, a certified sex coach, great music taste. I checked out a few of her musical playlists. And lastly, is the owner of the wildly popular Naughty Girl Shop. So Sienna, how's it going today?
Hey, thanks for having me. And thanks for the introduction. It was very nice.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Taste.
You got to give people their flowers while they're here. And so it's, if you're like us, I told you before we hit the record button here that you're like Superwoman when I first came across you, because you're doing so many things.
Yes, yeah.
So let's start with your origin story. Were you always like you are now, with this I sense like this rebellious spirit? Yeah.
My rebellious spirit, or what'd you say?
Yeah, like a rebellious spirit. I just sense that from you.
Yeah, I guess I can be a little rebellious, but more free spirited, just not following the rules, but not illegally.
Mm-hmm.
No, I've always been someone who has followed my own path.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the way I grew up when I was younger, moving to many different schools and learning to love myself, because I spent a lot of time with myself because I didn't have a lot of friends moving a lot. So you end up spending a lot more time with yourself. And also just learning about people in general and how people treat you for being a new girl, and learning not to take things so personal. So when I was growing up, I decided I either had to allow people to hurt my feelings, or I had to be strong and move on and not care what people thought about me. And that's been my philosophy since then, and how I've moved on with my business. I just learned not to care what people think about me. So when it comes to naughtiness, it has helped me, because trust me, when you're in the naughty business, people love to comment and talk about you and judge you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not here for any judgments.
Yeah, that's almost like a superpower.
Yes.
To have that thick callus, that skin that doesn't just like comments, especially now in the age of the internet. It's very easy to be anonymous and just say some of the cruelest things. And I've noticed that with friends who have traveled a lot as little kids, where it's almost like, I guess, being in different environments, they're a little more tougher than people like me who grew up in one place. And, I can admit it, have been a little sheltered and a little more sensitive.
You have to be tough because, one, it's street smarts, because I grew up a lot on my own and taking care of myself. I'm not saying my parents were there for me. They were.
Mm-hmm.
They were busy, young, working people. But I just learned how to protect myself. And, because I wasn't with a group of friends my whole life,
Mm-hmm.
I had to learn how to make friends all the time. Even when people didn't like me, I had to, take the hurt, but then go, okay, I can't take this personally, but how to kind of be on my own. I spent a lot of lunches on my own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I took my first trip out of the country. I went by myself. I'm an only child, so it wasn't too bad, but it was interesting to be in an unfamiliar land and barely can speak the language, and you had to really become more resourceful.
I think everybody should. By the way I grew up, it helped me to be able to be on my own and travel a lot on my own. But I think that everybody, it's almost as if it should be a class, that you should learn how to be on your own more and, not depend on people, and to travel. Because I always tell people that when you travel by yourself, it's totally different than when you travel with a friend. Because when you're with a friend or someone you're comfortable with, you're not going to go talk to a stranger. You're not going to go do things that you would do with a friend, because you stick with your friends. When you're by yourself, you're kind of forced to talk to other people that you would never talk to, and do things, and get out of your comfort zone.
It's a very good point. I was telling another friend, because he was afraid to travel by himself. I was like, trust me, when you go travel by yourself, you'll become more outgoing than you possibly can believe. Because here, back in my hometown right now, I'm a little more reserved because I have my established network of friends. But when you're in a new place, it's almost like you give yourself permission to be this new character, or really maybe be the person that you always thought you were going to be, but a little too afraid to be.
Yeah, I mean that's another thing that I loved about growing up so many different places is that even for me as an adult, I love to go to a new city and just start over.
Hmm.
It's just something I love. People are like, well, aren't you afraid you're not going to know anyone there? And I'm like, that's the best thing is I'm not going to know anybody. They're not going to know me. It's not like I'm running away. I just love to travel. That's who I am. And meeting new people, I find that amazing.
Hmm.
Also learning about other cultures.
Yeah. So before we dive into all your businesses, what does being naughty mean to you?
So naughty to me is just feeling sexy and confident in myself, but naughty to someone else could be totally something different. Sorry,
Hmm.
a motorcycle is leaving.
Oh, that's fine. I've had on these. I've had dogs jump in.
He's
I've
really loud, but he just left. Okay, yeah. I always tell other people that because people say what's naughty for other people, I can't define your naughty. That's something that you need to define on your own, as I've done for myself. And naughty can be anything from being tame, which is a lot of what my books are about, finding your own naughty level, your comfort level, and also attending my parties. But it could be something as much as just getting up in the morning and wearing sexy lingerie that nobody can see but you, that's underneath your clothes, but it makes you feel sexy. Or naughty could be going to a strip club or taking it to the extent to where you're exploring your sexuality with fetish clubs or sex clubs. But I say naughty you have to define it, and for me it's just sexiness and confidence.
so where's the origins of you started your business? How did that come about?
Well, started many moons ago. When I lived in London in 2001, I was just fresh out of college and I had an internship. And I traveled over there and I kind of always had like a little curiosity, but I was never, I was curious in naughtiness, but I wasn't, it's not like you would look back at my life and go, oh, wow, you were really naughty.
Mhm.
It didn't really start until I went to London and I was out on my own, which is what we were talking about. And I started exploring myself more and going on history tours and learning about these women of the past, these courtesans, madams. And to me, they were really ahead of their times. They were businesswomen. They were women who were stepping out of the norm and doing things that they shouldn't have been doing back then because, they were considered like scum of the earth. They weren't ever proper women or to get married again. But they were doing things that they didn't want to be a wife. Because there weren't many options for women back then. And by being a madam, you were free to make your own money, to own land, and to marry if you wanted to as a choice. But I just found these women fascinating and their stories. And also naughty history is just fun. It's like watching a crime movie, it's kind of the same thing. It's just fun, to learn about something different and not so boring history. And I started traveling all over Europe and I started to write about it on a blog back in the day. And I saw like a big interest in it. And when I went back to the States, that's kind of where my business kind of took off with my love of travel, sex, and history. And I combined all three together and came up with Naughty Girl book. But also just started with, after I came back from London, I moved to DC and I started dancing, stripping. And I did that more out of a need for money. People never get into stripping because they want to. They do it out of a need of money, because I needed some money and I wanted to travel. So it was an easy way for me to make money. But when I got into it, stripping really helped me to get more comfortable in my body and to love myself more. And it also helped me to take control because men usually always think they have the power.
Mhm.
And in a strip club, the woman has the power. And that was very empowering for me to have that power and to be able to tell a man no, and they listen in strip clubs. So all that was like a whole self-learning experience. Unfortunately, a lot of women go in there and they turn the drugs. They have men boyfriends that they pay for. Or I took it a different way. I saw it as a business opportunity. And if I could not let this business suck me in and spit me out, I could really make it. So I just went from stripping, and then I went into taking sex coaching classes. I really got into like this whole naughty lifestyle, a way of living, and started going, attending fetish shows, and got into the fetish world for 2 years, where I traveled all over Europe and different countries attending fetish events. And I was also a fetish model. I got into the burlesque world, where I really went like, this was like a school I went to for myself, just like really learning about myself. And it doesn't mean that whatever I was learning, I liked. You know, I realized that after doing all this, I'm pretty tame and pretty vanilla. Like, I don't need fetish things to get me off. It was just something I wanted to explore, to learn more about. And I got into the burlesque scene because of the love of women's bodies. If you've ever been to a burlesque show, it's usually women of all body sizes. And I love, I'm really big in supporting women of all sizes, natural, being, loving your natural self. So it was just a combination of doing all this stuff that got me to where I am today. Like a little learning experience for myself that I took on my own.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. It's very interesting. What's one of the biggest, I would think, what's one of the biggest misconceptions that probably mainstream has about the naughty industry in general, just overall?
I think that they don't realize that running a naughty business is like running a business. I take my business very seriously. They might think that you're dumb, you're not smart, you didn't go to college, or you're only in it for the money, or you have a deadbeat boyfriend, or you have kids that you're supporting. Am I in it for the money? Of course I'm in it for the money. Money is what brought me to this world. And do I love money? Yes, because money allows me to travel and to do the things and have the business that I want. But that's not all of it. It was more about learning about myself. And then once I learned about myself, I realized that I started helping people. And then that's when I really loved what I started doing, is applying what I had learned for other people.
What's some of the, because after this time of 5 books, I know you host parties. And what's some of the biggest surprises that you see from the people that you've helped?
Oh, wow. There's so many because people can come to me to one of my parties very shy. There was one girl who came to my party, and it was a very tame. I have different level parties for different people, whether it's a meetup at a hotel just to come out and see us and realize that we're not weird. We're normal people. And I might have an event where we go to a burlesque event for people who want something tame. Not everyone's ready to jump into a sex party. And I offer these different ways so that people can feel comfortable and find their own naughty level. But there was this one girl who came to my event, and it was just an outdoor naughty drive up. We drove up your cars in a drive through or drive in. And we were watching 9.5 Weeks, and it was a 50s theme, and roller skates, girls topless with carrying food to you. And then afterwards we had a DJ, and we were doing the little, what's that little thing when you go under the stick? Limbo.
Limbo, yeah.
So she was sitting in the corner, and I knew she was new. And I went up to her and I said, "Hey, would you like to join the topless limbo? But you don't have to be topless." And she was like, no. I heard look on her face, said it all. And, don't shame or judge anyone. So I just said, fine, she's either going to come back to my events, or this was just too much for her. And ever since then, it had been 4 years. She has now started hosting her own events. She is this like very sexual person now. And she's always thanked me and credited me and tells people all the time, Sienna, if it wasn't for her, because before she said, she lived in this world where people didn't allow her to be naughty. And then all of a sudden she found this group of, caring, supportive people that allowed her to be naughty. And she became like more naughty than me. But again, it's no judgment. There's no judgment here. That's just who she became. I saw her grow into this person. And I've also helped marriages. I had a couple who came to me, whether, someone cheated on someone. And sometimes, people reach a point in their marriage. This is not for everybody, I'm not talking about every marriage, but they had decided that she wanted to, explore the naughty world a little bit. And it's been 2 years, and their progress is slow, but it's working for them, to where now they'll come into the bedroom with other couples, but still not do anything with other couples. They're just doing things on their own, but it's taken them that long just to do that in 2 years. but it's helping them with their marriage. And you shouldn't judge someone, if that's what they want to do.
What do you think is the biggest hurdle or obstacle for most people when it comes to unleashing more of this naughty side that we all have in us?
I think it's judgment from what society, whether their religious background, what their family will think. Having kids, thinking if I'm doing this, then I don't want my kids to see this. I just think it's just society and a lot of brainwashing as we grow up
Hmm.
of what you're not supposed to do. Don't touch yourself. Don't masturbate. Don't do this. This is wrong. Good girls don't do this. The whole thing. And then when they come into my world, they see all these people who are normal, because a lot of people also think that sex clubs or nudist resorts are a bunch of freaks. And they come and they see, wow, this is not what I was expecting. I'm not going to say that you're going to get this from every naughty party, because there are some sketchy parties out there, and you do
Hmm.
need
Of course.
to be careful and always go to a party that looks out for your safety, and is ask permission. So
Yeah, and I bet people would be surprised to see all types of people there. Because like, yeah, like you mentioned, people probably have this certain image of the type of person that goes to these
Oh yeah,
parties.
my party, and again, you have to be careful with some swinger parties. There are some swinger parties who do judge people, and that's their business. If they want to only allow attractive people to come or fit people, they're allowed to do that. That's their business model. So, but I don't do that because I don't discriminate. I
Hmm.
don't believe in discrimination. I don't believe in discriminating against age, size, color, or anything. It's just I just don't feel comfortable with myself allowing someone because you were born a certain way or you gained weight that I'm saying no to you. You can't have permission to be naughty. Like I
Hmm.
said, totally against what my business is about. But again, totally okay if that's what your business is. People like that, and that's fine. So my group of people, by doing that and not judging people, I have met some of the most amazing people that if I had judged people by their looks, I would have never have met them. I have Indian couples coming in who you're like, and this little sweet Indian couple has come in, and you're like, oh my gosh, these people do not look naughty at all. Freaky, you never know people. I mean, I have so many walks of life at my parties, and when I look around at everybody being naughty, it just makes me happy,
Hmm.
that I created this community of people.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear, and I bet that happiness when you can finally be yourself just translates beautifully to all of the aspects of your life.
Oh yeah, because my people are so friendly. They're some of the nicest people. I've been to some swinger clubs where it's been supermodels, beautiful people. Nobody talks to each other, unless they're interested. There's just this, but my community, everyone's friendly. Just because someone's talking to you doesn't mean they're hitting on you.
Hmm.
And it's amazing to see. I mean, I'm like getting all sad because, I haven't had a party in a long time.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
my
So,
community.
so when do you think you'll be able to do your next one with? Because as we shift here, thinking of business right now, and what do you expect?
Well, my last party that I did was October Halloween,
Hmm.
and we had everyone tested, which was fine, and nobody got sick. Everyone was tested. You had to be tested the day before, but it was really hard to get people to do that.
Hmm.
And I understand because media saying one thing, people have kids, people have parents living with them, and they just don't want to take any chances. I still had a good sized party. It was about 40 people, but normally my parties can be anywhere from 60 to 80. I don't like them too big. My
Hmm.
people intimate parties. It was just really hard to sell tickets, and I never had to ever struggle to sell tickets. But I needed the party because I just think we all kind of needed it for the people who wanted to come.
Hmm.
So because of how hard it was, I decided, you know what? I don't need to struggle to host a big party. I'm just going to put it off because I can tell that there's some people who are not comfortable yet coming. And I've told my group that, right now things are just on hold, but I don't know, I really don't know.
Yeah, it's a very interesting time, and but I will say though, soon as I guess things do fully open up again, I'm sure people are going to be just craving
It's going to
for
be
for
like
the,
massive party on earth ever.
yeah, that's
It's
what I'm thinking.
clubs and sex clubs can open up. It doesn't matter if you're a nightclub or a sex club. It's going to be one massive party.
Yeah, because I'm not even really a night person, and I was even telling a friend the other day, it's like I kind of would like to go out to like a bar or lounge or something just to do something, be around a bunch of people.
Everybody's going to go out. Even if you were or
Yeah.
introvert, you're going to go out. Everyone's going to be so drunk and
Mhm.
have worse hangovers the next day, and nobody's going to care.
Exactly. So let's go to the early days of your business as you're building these parties and you're building your just a following in general. What were some of the early challenges from that?
The early challenges were I had a strategy when I first started. I had like a 5-year plan.
Hmm.
My 5-year plan was to start Sienna Sinclaire first with naked photos, my naughty website, because that's who I was at first with, I hadn't done anything else yet, but I knew I wanted to do other stuff. I just wasn't 100% sure, but I knew I needed a following. I knew I eventually wanted to write a book, but if I had written a book and started a social media page, nobody would have cared.
Hmm.
So I needed to build my brand and my personality first, and that was through Sienna Sinclaire. And I knew I could get followers by posting nude photos.
Hmm.
That worked. I got a big following, and then I started introducing my book, and people started buying it, and it just kind of, and it's the same with my Naughty Girl clothing line. It was the Sienna first, and then my books, and then my sex coaching, all these other little things, and building up my brand. Because after I built my Sienna brand, I had to learn how to tap into women because it was mostly men. So through my sex coaching and my parties, I was able to tap into women. And then that's how I was able to get to the Naughty Girl clothing brand, was using the women that I had tapped into. So it was a long process. This is not something that just happens overnight.
Definitely not. Definitely not. I think a lot of us want instantaneous results, especially being in the online world now, where it seems like there's all these overnight success. You just
No,
don't
they're not.
see. You just don't see. Yeah.
They're not. And I tell people that too. If you see a girl on Instagram, I promise you she's either been working for 5 years before that, or I mean, there are some people who just get lucky
Hmm.
and just get lucky, but those people are so few.
Speaking of a long time, one of the things that first caught my attention with you is when you made a video and you were talking about your clothing store and
Yeah.
how long it took to get off the ground. And so let's dive into that a little bit. You mentioned that it took almost 20 years to get off the ground, and
So my video is titled "Don't Give Up on Your Dream," and it came about from watching this TV show. I can't remember what it was called. Oh, it's these three guys in, oh gosh, it's these three guys in like New Jersey, or four guys that go around and joke people. I can't remember the thing, but anyway, they were doing this funny joke, and the guy was saying, it took me 15 years to do my business. And the guy in the audience, they don't know it's real. And he's like, 15 years, that sounds ridiculous. Why would anybody do that? And he's like, hey, I'm on my own path.
Mhm.
It's just a joke. I forget what it's called, Impractical Jokers. So it's a really good show. So it got me thinking, I'm like, yeah, that guy should not be making fun of his path, even though it was a joke. It was a show. It was meant to be funny. But and I started thinking about my thing. Well, I've done it for 20 years, but not to the point to where I was doing it for 20 years. I didn't start my business and then, it took 20 years. I had an idea 20 years ago when I started Sienna, and I was trying to think about my 5-year plan and things that I would do. And one of them was definitely my books and sex coaching and doing all the things I talked about before with the fetish and the burlesque world, and just trying to find different ways to make money. Because I always believe in not having your eggs all only in one basket, kind of different revenues,
Mhm.
but the same type of business. So to make it easier on yourself. And sorry, I just lost my train of mind because that one car was going off the bus. Well,
I like these Zoom interviews. They're real life. There's
I know.
yeah.
It's like the bus started going, and anytime I hear a loud noise, it throws me off. I'm like,
Mhm.
stupid. Okay, so what was I saying?
Yeah. So we were talking about your clothing store.
It's
It's
funny,
yeah.
yeah.
It's an idea.
So I had my idea, and I made this book, which I showed on my video. And the book was this red book because it was me called Red Light Boudoir. And at the time, you have to think 20 years ago, there was none of the stuff that we have today. There was no way to go and get banners made for $5 or to do a website. I was designing my own websites. So the cost of everything up front was a lot more. And at the time I was in my 20s and I wanted to travel the world. So it was an idea. I mean, I really put all my heart into this idea. And so I just kind of like left it on the side going, I'm going to do it one day.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know when, and I don't know when that time's going to be, but I know that when it is, I'll know. So it's always there. I always thought about my red light boudoir store, and the years just kept going, but I was busy at that time doing other stuff. And then 4 years ago, I found this company named Revolve on Instagram. I'm sure a lot of girls know who they are. And I saw how they were doing their Instagram through influencers. They were really one of the first businesses that they didn't have a store. They only had online, and they did everything with influencers, parties, just over the top. The guy had a lot of money, so it was like, I can't do what he does on his level. Mm-hmm. But I saw them as a case study. I'm like, oh my gosh, these guys should be a case study in any school or college, because what they're doing is really ahead of the curve. Nobody else had done this at the time. Now people are doing that, and they have been really successful. So I pulled out my book and I was like, it might be time to revisit this idea, because now, before, I was too busy traveling. I didn't want to own a store. I mean, when you own a store, there's workers, you got to go in, theft, there's all kinds of stuff. So I said, maybe I can now do my store, but now my brand's different. It's now Naughty, and I can't use the word red light boudoir because it doesn't kind of go with it. So that's why I came up with Naughty Girl instead, but still keeping the same idea. I mean, everything that I had written 20 years ago is all the same stuff I'm using today. It's amazing. The ideas are all the same, just keep recycling things. But that's how I did it. I followed Revolve's idea of only doing it online and doing pop-ups and hosting these events with these Instagram girls, taking them on like to Mexico and to Vegas. And it worked. I mean, 90% of my sales come from Instagram.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because when I was going through your website, I didn't notice that like you have these very, I want to say like aspirational photos that just really do a good job of capturing the emotion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then you also have, like I said, like you noticed earlier, like you said earlier, that you have girls of all different shapes and sizes on there as well. Yeah. So when it comes to developing your brand, I guess, how do you, what do you give advice to other entrepreneurs when it comes to like having a dream, and that's something that seems so difficult? And how do you,
I like to discourage people, but also encourage people. So at first I discourage people because not everyone is meant to be an entrepreneur. And I told my sister this. Everybody sees all these girls on Instagram like, oh my gosh, they own a business. It looks so glamorous. I promise you it's not that glamorous, and it's hard. You have to pay your own insurance, pay your own bills, medical, car. You have to pay your own self. It's so much easier if I could just wake up every day and go to a 9-to-5 job and get paid. I would love to get off work at 5 o'clock and be able to go hang out with my friends and go to a bar and not have to bring work home with me. So when you're a business owner, you can't do that. I can't be going out every night like I see my sister doing and hanging out with her friends and going to brunch, because I have to run a business 24 hours. And there's like 20 people under me that I have to communicate with. So I try to discourage people because I'm being real. It's not meant for everybody, and that's okay. It's okay to work for other people. I don't understand. Like, if I could do it again in another life, maybe I'd love to work for somebody else because my life would be so much easier. But that's not who I am. I'm a driven person, and it takes a lot of drive. And then once I discourage you, I like to encourage you, because if this job is for you, just know that it is going to take a lot of work, but it also can be one of the best things, like just having that like freedom and just that accomplishment that you did something. But I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with working for other people and being a worker for, someone else and whatever you want to do.
That's a very good approach.
I always say that, when the end comes, like, I'm going to go like live on the beach and just work at a coffee shop.
I thought about that. I thought about that a few times.
I think about it all the time, but I know myself, and what would happen is I'd end up owning that coffee shop and then
Mhm.
needing to own 10 more. Just my personality. So it's like, don't do it.
So I'm curious, what continues to motivate and drive you to this day?
The thing is about drive, I don't, I really don't know if it's something you can get. Like,
Hmm.
how do you get drive? I just had drive my whole life. Like, I feel it inside me. There's some days I wake up and I don't have my drive as much. And then there's other days my drive is just so strong. Like, it's just something that's there. So I don't really know because I've never not had drive. Even when I was younger and I was this one job when I was in college, this guy said to me, he goes, one word I would describe you is driven. Like, he's like, you're just so driven. And this was just me being a cart girl at a golf course. But my sales were so strong. I was so motivated. I was always there to work. You know, the guys at the golf course loved me. People came in and asked for me. You know, guys talked about me on the radio show. You got to go see this cart girl. But it was just this drive and this passion and this love of catering to people, like helping people. And, you know, I don't really know how you get it.
Well, I think that's just a natural talent of yours.
Yeah, that's
I
why
think,
I
yeah.
say if you don't have it, I don't know if you would be cut out for being a business owner because it
Mhm.
is trial every day.
Yeah, yeah, and I think your skill set, like you mentioned right there, it seems like customer service and just I think that's a strength of yours.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
I even though I don't, because people know who know me know that I don't really like people,
yeah,
but I love catering to people. But yet I don't. Like, if I'm just in my normal life, go get your own food. You know,
yeah.
if it comes to my business, I will cater to you. It's like, what do you want? What can I get you? It's just this thing that I have, and for making people happy, you know, as a business, as a
Hmm.
customer.
Yeah, so it's like flipping a light switch on and off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with your clothing store, how do you like decide what new items to bring in and inventory and all that?
So the reason why I started my clothing store is that people liked my fashion. People like what I wore, but my fashion is can be very expensive. The items that I buy, they're from, you know, special designers, unique designers that I have. So I knew I couldn't sell those items. And but I wanted things that were more affordable for women. So to show people that you can look good and be beautiful in anything. And everything I pick, I wear. I don't pick trends. So you're not going to see bell bottoms. I just do not like bell bottoms. I don't care if it's the biggest trend and I can make a lot of money off of it.
Yeah, me
I'm not,
neither.
there's just things I will not do if it's trending. My pieces have to be classic, timeless, because I want you to know that because a lot of people who are shopping may not have the money, but I want them to know that when they come to my store, they can, they're investing in something, and that it's going to be a piece that they can wear a long time down the road. And also I try to find pieces that are unique. Back in the day, like early 2000s, there was a trend of boutique stores. And I don't know many people who remember this, but I used to love to go boutique shopping. They're, you know, they're little stores that cater to you, that it's one woman owns it.
Hmm.
She handpicks everything. So you're getting something special and unique. And then they kind of just went away. You know, it was now like Forever 21 and these big chain stores. And you don't really see a lot of boutique stores as there used to be. They're starting to come back now. And I think after COVID, it's going to be that way more with customer service. But that's what I want with my store too, is a lot of one-on-one with people and letting women know that, you know, feeling sexy and confident in just what they wear. So picking pieces that are unique. It's
Hmm.
like you can go out and buy a ton of different clothes, but when I shop, how I shop is I have my basics, you know,
Hmm.
your jean jacket, your jeans. But once you have your basics, it's picking out that like stunner, that one unique piece. And that's what Naughty Girl's about. Like, you can come for your basics, but when you shop, you're going to be picking out like a stunning dress or, you know, something.
I like that. And so what's in store for the future for you and Naughty Girl?
I have no idea. You know, because when I started this business, it kind of all just fell in place.
Hmm.
I mean, I had a plan, like I told you, but nobody really has a plan, because if you go with the flow, which I think is very important, and let things just happen, things can change. And I felt like that's what happened with my business. I kind of just went with the flow and, oh, I'm going to do sex coaching. I'm going to go in the fetish world. I'm going to do burlesque. I was just trying all this stuff. And the clothing store, even though, like I said, 20 years and I started it now, I didn't know it was ever going to happen. And then it did. So I don't know 100% sure what the future is. I'm hoping that Naughty Girl gets bigger, of course, because I'd love for that to be successful and for it to grow more. But I don't know what the next chapter of my life is.
I asked that a handful of times to different people I interview and everything. And that's kind of the things, like we always, we think we have this plan in our head that it's going to go 1, 2, 3. It's going to go in this linear fashion, but it never pans out that way. And
But
I think
I'm old enough to know that life is not that way.
yeah. And
so that's why I just don't really plan that much.
And I got to get that ingrained in my head that it's better just to go with the flow. It's less stress.
No, it is.
Yeah. And so
I let life take me where it's going. And so far it's taken me in a good path with what I want. But I don't know the future of my naughty parties with COVID. Maybe it's, I want to do it when COVID is over. But Naughty Girl has been taken off so much and doing so well that there does have to be a point to maybe I might have to let something go, I don't know yet.
So yeah, so as we get ready to wrap this conversation up, let's talk about your wellness routine. How do you stay so healthy and sharp? What's your wellness routine like?
Well, let's see. Wow. So I'm not as healthy as I look. I'm just kidding. I had a rotator cuff injury last year, and that has really put me out because I just went and got my cortisone shot for the second time, and I can't work out with my arm. So that has put me behind, but because of my injury and not being able to lift things or lift weights, it's actually made me take care of my body more. And I, done physical therapy, but now I'm doing this Aloe Moves, which I love this workout. It's Aloe yoga wear, but they have this thing called Aloe Moves. And I've been doing a lot more like fascia work. And so that I don't have injuries again, or to prevent things, because I'm getting older, and as you get older, things just change. It doesn't matter how healthy you are, you're going to start limping one day, or you're going to get a rotator cuff injury. It just happens. So I've been taking care of myself a lot. My health has changed, and that I'm trying to take care of my well-being by stretching more, and especially with COVID. Oh my gosh, I was so much more active before COVID. It doesn't mean that I'm not working out. It's just that before COVID, I was traveling, so that means you're walking more. I was dancing at nightclubs. You're just more active. And now it's like I'm sitting at home all day, and then I go get up and work out for 2 hours, and I come back and sit. So that's why I'm also getting out of the country to get out of here.
Yeah.
But I would just say that, I love my Peloton. Love it. I'm someone who gets bored easily. So I live in LA and San Francisco. And in San Francisco, I have my Peloton. And in LA, I have like my Pilates machine, a ballet bar, and I do a lot of dance. So
yeah. So that's a very diverse range. And
I get bored. And like I said, you also just need to take care of your well-being, like stretching.
Yeah. It's funny. I've had a couple of people to talk to, and they're like, I'm eating the same thing. I'm working out, but I'm just gaining more weight. I was like, well, think about what you normally do during those extra 10 plus hours of the day. You're generally just not sitting talking on Zoom. You're walking around the city. You're probably traveling a little more. So that's extra activity that we tend to forget about.
No, my activity is decreased majorly because of all those little things. Walking to the airport, walking through the plane, walking to the city. All these little things that you were doing that you're just not doing anymore. It's amazing, like how I've felt this year. Just my health has not been. I'm not gonna say like oh, I'm sick, but I've had sciatica. I've had my arm injury. I'm sitting too much, and it's like, oh my gosh. Even when I just get up to go do my workout, you come back and you sit. There's nothing to do.
Yeah.
I can go walk outside, but then I come back and sit. And normally I had a good balance. I would come back home from a long trip and I would work, but I would be doing trade shows. I would be hosting parties. I'd be doing, photo shoots. So again, I'm in movement. Where now it's just like, okay, after this, I'm going to go sit.
Yeah.
and watching on Netflix.
So I like to, this last segment here is just what I call random questions. I used to call it rapid fire, but they're not rapid fire sometimes because I'm terrible at asking rapid fire questions. So the first question is, what does success mean to you?
I ask myself that question all the time because I've never wanted to be famous
Hmm.
because I'm a very private person. Even though I'm doing an interview with you, you know, I'm still very private person. I don't like, you know, fame.
Yeah,
So success for me has always been just knowing that I'm financially secure, one, because that's just always been something for being an independent woman is taking care of myself. But just knowing that I'm happy, and when I get emails or people come and tell me how much my business has helped them or changed who they are, that to me defines my success. It's one thing just to make money and like, oh, I'm making all this money, I got a lot of money, but I don't feel like if you're getting anything back from it.
hmm,
But again, that's whatever your success is. But for me, you know,
yeah,
it's knowing that people care about what I do. Because sometimes as a business owner, you're like, you wake up one day and you're like, why am I doing this? Like,
that's true.
let's get away. And then all of a sudden you get an email or you get a call and someone tells you this story and you never even heard from this person. But
Hmm.
they've been following you secretly. And they tell you like they've been following you for years. And you're like, oh my gosh, like, this is why I'm doing it, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, one of the lessons my dad told me is that you never know who's watching.
No, you don't. And I've
So,
almost
so I always keep that in
my
mind.
dad always said you never know who someone is, meaning because he's a hairdresser, meaning
Hmm.
like you're working at because I used to work in food and beverage. I was a bartender.
Hmm.
Don't ever judge people by the way they look or what they're wearing, meaning tip wise,
Hmm.
you know, or color or race or anything, you know, or being a female or something, you know, they always say females don't tip as much, you know. I always treated people the same. So what if that girl didn't tip that much, you
Hmm.
know, but guess what? The next female might tip me big, you know? So just treat them. So it's the same way with my business, how I run it today too.
And the next thing is, what are maybe 2 to 3 books that have had a big impact on your life?
Well, there's this one book that I do not know the name of it, but when I lived in DC, maybe 2006, it was a book on how to make different types of income. And this is what I've always said by having not all your eggs in one basket. I
Hmm.
cannot remember the book, but it told you to write down 10 things that you absolutely love to do, like hobbies, whatever that you love to do. And then look at those last five and then narrow the things down that you could turn into a business.
Hmm.
And then really narrow it down to 3 things. And that's what I did before I started my business. I narrowed it down to 3 things. And that's where I came up with travel, sex, and history.
Combining all 3 of your passions.
Yeah. But again, don't put all your eggs in one basket. So I have many sources of income coming in because guess what? During COVID, it worked out for me. If I had only been hosting my naughty parties and COVID hit, I'd be screwed. But because I had all these other ways with my sex coaching, I was able to do more Zoom classes. My clothing line during COVID took off. I mean, it took off. And my naughty parties, non existent. You know, no money from my naughty parties. So, yes, that book from 15, 20 years ago, you know, it really helped me. Little did I know there'd be COVID,
Yeah.
but it helped me, you know, to have different forms of income. But that is one of I mean, I always refer people to that book. I just cannot remember it.
Well, I think you explained the concept, and that's and
Yeah.
that's and that the concept explaining the concept is just as good. You just gave a book summary, which is just as good.
Yeah. I mean, that's really the main book. I've read so many other books, but that's my main book I always think about.
Yeah, I like that. And what are let's see, let's do what are your top 5? What's your musical starting 5? And they could be dead or alive. Who are this your 5 go to?
Are we talking about genres
Oh,
or
let's do artists and groups. It can be either or, artists or groups. It can be a mixture. They can be dead or alive. It doesn't matter.
this one's really hard because I'm really big into genres.
Okay,
Because
you want to do genres? Let's do genres. Let's do genres.
it's just you know, it's rather groupie because I love way too much music. Okay, so my favorite of all time just has to be jazz.
Okay.
I, I love jazz. I love bossa nova. I love all different types of jazz. So Frank Sinatra is my favorite. Melody Gardot, Michael Bublé, all the greats.
Oh yeah, you're speaking my language.
So that's my first genre. As soon as I wake up in the morning, I play some type of jazz music. If we're gonna go into just fun, my second favorite, 80s, anything 80s music.
Mm-hmm.
I go on an 80s cruise every year. Not this year because of COVID, but it's 1 week of 80s bands from the actual 80s, like the decade.
Oh, really?
They're still alive, VJs, everybody
Mm-hmm.
gets dressed up. If you ever go to my Instagram page, you'll see my 80s cruise. So 80s, if I'm not listening to jazz, I'm listening to 80s and I'm dancing to 80s. And then there's my favorite 90s R&B.
Yeah.
I do not like 90s anything else except for R&B. It's not, I love Motown. I do. I will put that into my 90s R&B kind of Motown. But something about that decade, the artists like Joe and R. Kelly and Ralph Tresvant, their music is so soulful. It's like music you can have sex to. And then my other ones I love Arabic music. Love it, love it, love it because I belly dance. I love music from other cultures that are different. Like I said, the bossa nova, Arabic. Love me some Indian music too. I love anything that is cultured and different.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of my thing.
Hey, you got some of the best music tastes out of all my guests so far.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. So
favorite girl band is Indigo Girls. That's my all-time favorite is Indigo Girls.
All right. So that's a good way to bookmark this conversation. Sienna, thank you so much for joining me. Where can listeners keep up with your mini adventures?
You can go, if you're looking for something naughty, siennasinclaire.com. If you're looking for fashion, naughtygirl.com.
Mm-hmm. So all your needs will be met with one of your websites. And I will have all this in the show notes. Once again, Sienna, thank you. And to the listeners out there, stay awesome, be limitless, and go be superhuman. Peace.
Okay.